G'day guys. On this video it's all about how to lay a roof. It's been brought to my attention that I've been calling the ridge, capping it the barge the whole time. A little slip, you know, there. But so just when I'm referring to the barge, I actually mean the ridge. When we're doing the soft edge, all of that, that's the ridge. Barges run up the side. And we'll be doing that in the next video, how to do all the flashings. Also, if you're building one of these kit sets, when I'm referring to my 100mm string line on this one, that's because we're using 100mm top hats on it. If you're building a bigger shed, it might be 120s, it might be 150s. So you're just going to want to take note of what your top hat size is before you put your chalk lines on your pad to mark out where your columns are going to go. Awesome, enjoy. G'day guys, just a bit of a rundown of what we got up to yesterday. We've formed our roller doorway. So what we've done is checked the plans, got the measurement, measured the centre of our building, and then split the difference, and we've put marks on our ground right where we want it to go. We've then gotten our legs and positioned and bolted them down and then brought them up to the top. And at the top you can see the mullion fixing bracket we've used. So it's a L plate bracket like this, a mullion fixing bracket, a 150, and we've attached it to the top of the C-section. We've put the C-section up, marked it, cut it with an angle grinder, and then we've attached that plate in. And essentially what we've done is set this 100mm back from our concrete pad and then levelled it up, and that's 100mm back from the other C-section, and then that's allowed us to put that in and then put our top hats in as well. So we've done that. You'll notice I haven't put my bottom top hat in yet because I need to put my piece of vermin flashing in first. But I wanted to have my door in so I know where I'm going to stop my vermin flashing, and we'll go over that in a bit more detail later on. If we come inside, so this is the header for our roller door. We've used mullion fixing brackets again, and we've attached those with a few Tex screws, lifted it up into position, and then Tex screwed it from the inside. We will chuck a couple more Tex screws in this. The apprentice has put these a little bit low, so we're going to move these up a little bit higher. Just sometimes the roller door people find that they get in the way of the roller door when it's running up your tracks and in, but that's no biggie. We'll just whip them out and change it round. And as you can see, we've done the same thing here. We've got these smaller brackets on the bottom that we've put right to the far side, so your roller door track will be able to fit in there and they don't interfere with it at all. So we've got all that formed up. We've then got in our header flashing here, and we've measured it, folded down the sides and put that in. So then when we start cladding the front, we're going to have a line to bring our sheets down to. And then the other big thing is started to do the roof. So yesterday we got the mesh on, and how we did this is on the C-section here, the Eve purlin, I've gone through and every 300 mils I've put a cladding Tex screw, cue photo up here later, and I've put those every 300, and that works out for the spacing of your mesh. So you do that both sides of the building, you then run your mesh over and you can hook your mesh onto it all and then tighten those down, and that holds your mesh in place. Your mesh is there really as a safety precaution so that while you're roofing you can't fall through the roof. And it does help keep the paper up, but the paper is self-supporting. But it's really a safety measure. If you have a clear lights on your roof and you're walking over and happen to step through one, that would save you. So then we're going to do the roofing. I'll put my harness back on in a minute and we'll get back up there and show you some of the roofing, just tips and tricks, and go from there. part of the process of doing your roof is stop ending your sheets. On a corrugated iron roof, you could just use a little pair of mouldy grips, or whatever they're called, or a adjustable spanner. And what you're doing, I've got a little line on mine there, because I'm just going to put them in and then fold that up. And if I had gone too deep, the fold would be above the top of the tin, and then that would interfere with my ridge cap when I put my ridge cap on. So you just want to work that out, put a little line, and then you're just going to stop end the top of, this is for the top of my roof, every one. And this is just going to stop, in a really bad storm, water getting blown up the roof by wind and hitting here. And now it will hit here, and then it will just be able to roll back. So it's just giving a bit more protection from the elements. So you go through and do every one of those. You can do this on the roof, but it's easier just to do it on the ground and then pass them up. But then you don't do your last one, because your next sheet's going to overlap onto that, and that would interfere with it. When you've done this, you also just need to cut off the corner of the lap, because that corner would hit into there on your next sheet. So just cutting off a little bit of the corner. So just using my reds there to cut that off. Another thing is, once you've worked out your sheet length and placement on your roof, you're going to have a bottom row of screws to go in. So what we like to do is mark those before we put up the sheet. So I got my set square, or adjustable square, and set that to 120 mils, which we've worked out is getting our bottom row of screws right into the right position. And then just go through and mark each one of those, just a little pencil mark. I'm obviously a mil out. And just mark each one of those. On the bottom row, we're going to screw every one, and then I'll do a pattern going up, which we'll show you once we're up on the roof. So they're just a few little tricks to make roofing go a bit smoother and a bit easier. Alright, so on this job we've decided to use a harness, because it's just a really little job, and because we're filming it to do how-to videos and things, we want to just get through it reasonably quickly. So I've opted, instead of getting it fully scaffolded, we're just using mobile scaffold for the end, and then me being up on the roof, I'm going to have my harness on. I'll have my harness tight all the time, so I can't get to the edge of the roof. I can't actually fall off the roof. So I own a harness because I'm doing this all the time. You can hire harnesses from hire shops and things, so this could be an option if you're doing a kit set instead of scaffolding it all yourself. Depending on the size of the building, the bigger the shed, the easier it is to do it with scaff instead. But if you're doing a smaller 30 square metre garage or something, it's a good option. So this is just one that I've brought from Bunnings or somewhere like that, and just quite a basic harness, but I'll put that on and then jump up on the roof and do that. So up here on the roof, and we're laying our sheet. So we've already put our first sheet on, and we've gotten that really nice and square to the side of the building, and also we've set up a string line down the bottom. So we've set that up at 100 mil off from the edge of the eave purlin, and that's going to allow for our tin to come up underneath, gutter brackets to go on and gutter to go on, and we're going to have about 60 mil of roofing iron into our gutter, which is perfect. And then the string line is letting us know that we're square to the building with our sheets. So as we lay our sheets, if we start creeping one way or the other from our string line, we know we're coming out of parallel, so we're going to be able to adjust that. And that's why getting your first sheet laid correctly is so important, because if you get that a bit out, it's just going to make it a nightmare to get the rest of it. Also, we're going to go through and put our paper down. This is still a two-man job. You're going to have to get or two-person job. You're going to have to get somebody out, get the wife up on the roof with you to help you lay this. What we've done is, when we've laid our first side of our paper, we've put the paper longer, and then the second side, your paper's slightly shorter. A good way to do this is roll it out on a sheet of roofing iron, and your short piece of paper can be the same length as your roofing iron, and then your second longer sheet wants to be 300 mils longer than that. So you roll those out, and then take this screw out. So on the paper, you see it's got a yellow lap line, and that's where your paper laps over to. So I'll pull that piece back, put it under my knee, and then we're going to roll that down. Then Andy's going to get that, have that. He'll put in a screw. So to do this, what we're doing is just using a little cladding screw, and he's going to put that into the front face. Once we've attached all the bottom sheets, we're going to be able to release those and have it going into the gutter. Once Andy's got his in, I'm going to pull it tight. You're not trying to pull it too tight because you just rip it out, but you want your paper to be quite nice and taut. So I'm going to pull that to about there. And then I'm just putting my screw in at the top of it, so at the top of my top hat, so it's not going to interfere with my screw line when I screw that in. This piece is actually slightly too long. Another trick is a sharp knife, which this could be sharper. So just tucking that in like this. Then I'm going to bring that over to that side. I'm going to take that screw back out. And then I'll move over to the other side and do the same thing. You can see here, if I put these screws in the wrong place, they're going to mark my sheets. So I'm just lining it up so it's going to be in the high part of my roof when the next sheet goes on. So I can just line these up and do that so I don't end up with a dent in the pan of my roof. Beautiful. Alright, now we're going to pass up a sheet and lay a sheet. So we've placed that in. Andy's now getting it lined up with the sheet that's there, and also checking that it's parallel to the string line. So that's good. So he's going to chuck in a screw now. I've got my foot resting on the sheet that's already secured and just onto the new sheet. I don't want to stand on that sheet till it's secured, otherwise it could slip out of the way. Then we're going to go through, put a couple more in. I'm going to start getting a line and doing my top line and screwing that off. Just tagging it as we go. And then we just can repeat the same process again and again. We'll lay another sheet of paper, lay another sheet of tin, and just keep going. Once you get close to the other end, you can also measure back from the edge of your building to your sheet, to the edge of your sheet here, or to the centre, just to make sure that you're parallel. Because if you start getting out, you're going to want to try to adjust that so your barge flashings fit better. But we might show you that when we get closer to that end. Before we get too far, I'm going to just have a look over the side and mark where my top hat is, and mark the very centre of that. And then I'll do that down there so I know exactly where my screw line's going. And then what I can do on this, because I'm going to want to put a screw in, is get a chalk line. Another good tool to own, handy for lots of different buildings, so worth shouting yourself when you've bought yourself an awesome shed. Hook that over. Come over here. See where the centre of that is. Hold that. Ping that. And then, as you can see now, I've got a line so I can screw as we go and have a line to fix to. When you're screwing off your roof, I'm standing on my overlap here. I've got my foot on it to hold it down tightly. Just start your tech screw. So there I was just pulling my finger in a little bit, not going full power to start with, because if you slip, you're going to scratch your roof. So you just want to get going. Then once you're through, and by having the weight on my foot there, I know that I'm keeping my tin right down, because sometimes as you screw in with your tech screw, the tin will come up the threads on it and it will sit a little bit high and you won't be perfectly waterproof. Cheers. So another couple of things to think about. Obviously you want a really nice still day to lay your roof. It's dangerous in the wind, sheets blowing about, but it's also hard work. Your paper's blowing about, everything's going everywhere. So often early morning's the time to try to tackle a roofing job, and especially now we're coming into summer, it's getting pretty hot, so getting that job out of the way in the morning's a good idea. Just try to stand on your purlin lines. If you're standing in the middle of your sheets, you're likely to put a dent into them, especially if you're a bit more weighty, you know. If you're a small fella, you might get away with it. But just try to stick to your lines, and that's what's good about me. I've chalked this line, so I know exactly where I'm going to stand. After I lay this sheet, I might ping a chalk line there as well, and then I can just see exactly where I'm standing all the time. Makes it safer, just makes it a lot easier. So another job you're going to do once you got your roof on is to get your ridge cap on. So an important part of doing your ridge cap is peeling off this little bit of plastic first, which never comes off that easy. If you get a long run of it, oh, it feels good. But you get that out your way, and then you need to fold this up. And if you just fold it straight up, you're not going to get the best fold on here, and you're not going to get the maximum coverage. So you really get your fingers under and push that up, so you're getting a tight bend on there. So you go along like that. If your fingers aren't hurting, you're not doing it hard enough. And you push it along like that, and then you can just go. So you just work your way along, and just do that, and just work your way along and get all your soft edge out before you get it up on your roof and place it into position. Awesome. We've laid our roof and we've gotten to the last sheet, and it's not going to be a full sheet that we need. So I've done my measurement from the centre of the underlap to the edge of the building, and it's 640 millimetres. So I pull out my trusty tape measure and place that in the centre of the overlap, and then mark where that's going to go to. So there, so because I've measured from there, that's where the centre of my overlap will sit on my next sheet. So that's how I've worked out my measurement. I've now got a mark. I'll do the same at the top, and for this, because this is going to get covered by flashing, it wants to be a pretty nice cut, but it's not like a finished cut that you're going to see. So I can see where that is. I'm just going to use my chalk line again. Hold my chalk line, ping that, and now I'm going to cut that. So we've got a few options to cut that, obviously depending on what sort of tools you have. Some people might think, oh, you could bust out the angle grinder and use the angle grinder. Of course you could, it's going to do the job. The issue with an angle grinder is it heats up as you cut, so it ruins the protective layer on your corrugated iron, so it's not the preferred method. Pair of reds and greens, imagine I had greens, you can use these. Tough work on the forearms, but you can get going. Sometimes you have to do 2 cuts. So now I've got my greens on me. I'll be cutting up and then doing the other cut. So cutting and then by doing 2 cuts, I'm relieving the tin so it's easier to get my cutters in and keep cutting. Pretty hard work, but it is doable. And if that's the tools you have, you can do it. Takes a little while, but you can work your way through. What I use is a pair of Makita shears. Fantastic tool, but they're expensive. So, you know, if you're only doing 1 shed, you're probably not going to buy one. But hey, if you've got a mate, you can borrow them off, or possibly have a look into Hire Pool or Hire Equip or somebody like that, and they might rent them out. I'm not sure. So I'll show you those though. Beautiful, too easy. Finish that off and then we'll get it up on the roof. But there's a few different options that you can use to do it. And there's another tool called nibblers, which I have, which are quite good. They're not as good for long cuts like this. And you can get a nibbler attachment, I believe, for a drill. So that's another thing that might be worth looking into. So we put our roof on, now we're going to put our barge on. So what I'm going to do is measure from the bottom of my sheet to the centre of my top hat, which will go for 2990. So I have that measurement, and then I'll just do the same, check the other side. 2990 is a little bit high on that side, so we'll go 2985. So then we're going to get our barge and we're going to pull it over, and we want to have a good couple of 100 mil over, so once we've put our cladding on and then we've put our barges in, we can cut this and get it looking just how we want to. So I'll get Andy to just line that up at that end. And I'll line that up there. It's pretty good there. I won't stand on it because I'll slip away. My harness would have saved me. So we're good just there. So now I'm going to measure back up here. So we're going to go screw every second rib from our overlap. So that will be that one there. So 2990, it's just there on this. So if I go like this, nice and centre there. Yep. 2990. And I want to be in the centre of that rib there. We've got that tacked on at that end. We're going to bring the barge round to this end, and on this roof I'm going to have this barge sitting on top of the other one, so when you pull into the driveway, look at it, it looks like a seamless bit of iron rather than having the lap coming the other way, and it catches the eye a bit more. So now what we've done is centred the other ridge in the middle, and I've just stood on it and Andy's looked down it just to make sure we haven't kinked out in the middle of it at all, and that it's just sitting nice and flat, and we're happy with that there. So I'll pin this end here now, and then we'll pin the other end as well. Now that I've got that all tacked off, I'm just going to bust out the trusty chalk line again and just give myself a line. And then I'll repeat that on the rest of them. And then just obviously you want to get it in the top of your rib, so really make sure you've lined up where you're going to drill through, and then drill through and do that. So now that you got your chalkies all done, what you want to do is go through and pin it more. You don't want to just start screwing off one side, because you can move your whole ridge over a bit. So I'd go through, pick about the middle here, screw an overlap, screw another overlap, and just do that, and then start filling in as I go. Just when you're putting your screws in, it's important not to over tighten your screws, so just giving it a little tickle at the end. If you do it too much and you see the edge of the rubber washer comes out, it won't be waterproof, so just pull it out and put a new one in. But so you don't want to tighten them right up, because it will ruin the washers and it will crinkle all your iron and won't look as good. So just like that, and just get those in just right. So I've just blown all the swarf off the roof there. Really important to get all the swarf off the roof. Those are the little iron filings, because they will cause little rust marks in it. If you do it and you happen to get caught in a shower or the roof's a bit damp and it happens, you can clean it off afterwards, but easiest is get a blower, petrol blower, blow it off. Obviously if you don't have one, at the end of doing a roof, what a lot of people do is clean the roof with a hose. And a hose, I've never done it, but I've heard it's quite a good way to do it, is you high pressure hose it off, and just doing the same thing, getting all that swarf off the roof. But I just wanted to give that a quick blow down, because I'm going to do the soft edge next. And often more swarf comes out when you do the soft edge. So this is the soft edge here. And when I put my barge flashing up, it's going to come under here. So I'm not going to start right at the end, I'll start a couple in. And what you do, I'll start this way and work towards you. You hold it there and give it a tap down with your hammer. And then move your hand along, tap the next piece down. And on the bottom of this, it has black tar-like tape that's going to stick this down. And this is just adding another level of waterproofing. Oh, went a bit far. Another level of waterproofing. So we'd stop ended the ends of our sheets, so any water trying to drive up, leaves and bugs and things can't get up past this. So I'll just work my way along now and do the rest of the roof. We're going to start cladding the side of the building.